My good people, my good people. Hello, world. Welcome back to the show that's hot with your boy Rob Scott. This is Robs2Cents. And before we get started today, got a couple shout outs I want to give. I want to give a shout out first to a very professional young man that I met by the name of Cameron Davis, who's actually responsible for the logo that you guys see on my page. Yes, Robs2Cents is official now, baby. And it is thanks to this guy, Cameron Davis, very professional, uh, brought my dream to life, and I appreciate his services. And if you guys need any type of logos or anything to do with graphic design, I advise you to hit up Mr. Davis ASAP. You can reach him on Facebook either at Cameron Jamal Davis, that's Cameron with a K, or you can reach his company on Facebook, which is pwr.designs. I promise you guys won't be disappointed in whatever your visions are. I promise he'll bring it to life. And I want to give a shout out to my boy, Franco Nitty. The Welcome mixtape is finally out, people. Make sure you go to my mixtapes or wherever you get your mixtape from. Listen to it. You won't be disappointed. My boy Frank, you on the way, baby. I appreciate you for letting me be part of that process, watching you build this mixtape from the ground up, watching you get all your albums in store with you guys. I promise you ain't ready yet. Franco, thank you, brother. It was an honor to be in that studio session with you. And hopefully we have many more sessions in the future. And hopefully we can bring all aspects of our media together and make this thing a conglomerate. And speaking of that, I want to give a shout out to all you guys that are steady supporting me, that are bringing new subscribers to my page. I appreciate you. Your boy reached his goal of 100 subscribers, baby. And I couldn't have done it without all of your support. I thank you guys so much. Road to 150 begins now. And you know I wasn't going to let you go throughout your week without giving you a dose of Robs2Cents. So let's dive right into it. Let's stop doing this small talk and get into that sports talk. You hear me? And we're going to talk about the NFL. And boy, did we see some great games yesterday. I know when you guys probably see this, Monday Night Football has been played, and don't worry, we will discuss the games that went on this past Monday. But we got to talk about the games we saw on Sunday. Let's get right into it. We saw the Saints defeat the Falcons 21-16, and boy, let me tell you, New Orleans might be on to something. I think they have their quarterback of the future. As we know, Drew Brees is still out, nursing those injured ribs, nursing those injured lungs. Taysom Hill has been getting the start. They have not lost since he's gotten the start. And yesterday was probably one of his better games as a New Orleans Saint. He went 27 for 37, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, 83 rushing yards. As we know, the boy liked to use his legs. But he finally showed you that he can make touchdowns in the air, giving you 2 on the day. Alvin Kamara, who I call old reliable, has probably been one of the most consistent players in the National Football League this year. 15 carries, 88 yards, 1 touchdown. And Michael Thomas, somebody finally found where Michael Thomas went because there was an APB out on him. He's been quiet this year, but yesterday he was far from it. 9 receptions, 105 yards on the day. And the New Orleans Saints continue to rock and roll and stay on top of that NFC division. Then we look at the Vikings, one of our NFC North rivals. You know what I'm talking about if you're a Chicago fan. They defeated the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are now at 1-11 on the year. Sorry, Jacksonville. I know they gotta suck, but they defeated the Jaguars 27-24 in overtime. Kirk Cousins on the day, 28 of 43, 305 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, but that interception didn't cost them the game. 32 carries, 120 yards for Dalvin Cook, but he did have that fumble that kind of put a that dampened his great game that he had yesterday. And the defense, though. The defense with 2 interceptions on the day, including the clutch interception that they got in overtime to set up the field goal victory. The Vikings, your winners, by 3 in overtime. And then we get to the surprise of the year. The Cleveland Browns defeated the Tennessee Titans Why do I call the Cleveland Browns the surprise of the year? Well, that's because they haven't had a winning record since 2007. That's because they haven't been to the playoffs since 2002. That's the year I graduated 8th grade. The Cleveland Browns have historically been a bad team. However, their luck has changed. Why? Because of that boy Baker. And boy, oh boy, did he have a great game yesterday. 25 of 33, 334 yards in the air, 4 touchdowns, 0 INT. Baker had himself probably the best game as a Cleveland Brown. Baker had himself probably the best game since being a professional in the National Football League. But not to be outdone, he had his running mate, and literally his running mate, the running back, Nick Chubb, 18 carries, 80 yards, 1 touchdown on the day. And Ryan Tannehill, he tried to keep the Titans in the game. He was 29 of 45, 389 yards on the day, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT. But what the defense of the Cleveland Browns did was they did not let Tennessee's best weapon beat them, as they held Derrick Henry to only 60 yards on the ground, 0 touchdowns. That's how you stop a beast. Now, Derrick Henry, it's time for you to make your adjustment, because it seems that the NFL is adjusting to you because you have not quite had that year that you had last year. Not to say you've had a bad year. You were even in the discussion for MVP this year until this game. Because clearly right now the MVP race is between Pat Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers, which we will get to them in a second. Then we look at our next game here. We had the Detroit Lions, sad to say, beat my Chicago Bears. Now they're both tied at 5-7 in the NFC North. They beat my Bears 34-30. Adrian Peterson turned back the hands of time. Had himself a good game. He didn't rush for much, only 57 yards on the ground. However, he did have those 2 touchdowns as he was able to power his way into the end zone. Matthew Stafford had a pretty good game, 27 of 42, 402 yards, 3 touchdowns on the day, only 1 interception. And Mitchell Trubisky, surprisingly, he didn't have a bad game for my Bears. He was 26 of 34, 267 yards, 1 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. But he is what you call a game manager. And if you guys want me to break down what a game manager is, here's Robs2Cents on what a game manager is. A game manager is is a player who's in a lead role, who is pretty much put into the game to neither win or lose the game. He is just there to keep it steady. That game manager is going to rely on other aspects of the team to either help win or lose that game. So in Mitchell Trubisky's case, he's going to rely on a running game, which our running game finally showed up, as we saw David Montgomery have 2 touchdowns on the day. We saw Cordero Patterson have 1 touchdown on the day. However, that defense could not stop Adrian Peterson. And the Lions were able to score 4 more points than we were. Hence, they won the game. But Mitchell Trubisky did not lose that game for us. Honestly, if you want to know who lost the game for us, it was Coach Nagy. Now, I'm not one to call for the firing of somebody, as their livelihood will be affected by them losing their job. However, if you cannot make the right play call, especially on a 3rd down and short, for a professional football team, then you need not be a head coach in the National Football League. Coach Nagy, it's time. We will hopefully not see you next year. And then we go into the next game. We had the Miami Dolphins, who saw the return of Tua Tagovailoa, who had their injured right thumb. They beat the Bengals 19-7. The Bengals have looked lost since I think his name Burrows has went down with an injury. But let's be honest, they looked lost when they had him, as their record is 2-9-1, meaning they won 2 times, lost 9 times, and had a draw. The score was 19-7. Tua Tagovailoa, 26 of 39 on the day, 296 yards, 1 touchdown. The defense left the Bengals scoreless from the 2nd to the 4th quarter, and not to mention they made them cough up 2 interceptions. Great game by Miami. Great game by the rookie. And then we saw my dark horse team defeat the Texans, which would be the Indianapolis Colts, 26-20. Phillip Rivers had himself a day. He was 27-35, 285 yards, 2 touchdowns on the day. T.Y. Hilton, another player who turned back the hands of time. 8 receptions, 110 yards, 1 touchdown on the day. Deshaun Watson, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. You got to play better than that, Deshaun. Now, I know you're one of the players like J.J. Watts that's on the Houston Texans screaming that you want to be traded, screaming that you don't want this team to go on in rebuild mode. I know you guys are still pissed they let DeAndre Hopkins go over there to the Cardinals. However, when you're playing games like this, when you have 0 touchdowns and 1 interception, it's time that you reevaluate your game first before we start pointing fingers at the team. That's Robs2Cents. Then we saw the Oakland Raiders defeat the Jets, and the Jets, unfortunately, are the only team in the NFL to not win one game, as now, after yesterday, their record is 0-12. Easter egg on the year. Woo! Sucks to be a Jets fan right now. But the Raiders defeated the Jets 31-28. Derek Carr had himself a game, 28-47. 381 yards in the air, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. That boy Darren Walker had himself a game yesterday. I mean, I haven't seen one of these games from a receiver probably since the Randy Moss T.O. days, maybe Megatron days with that boy Calvin Johnson. But Darren Walker had 13 receptions, 200 yards receiving in the air with 2 touchdowns. And Sam Darnold, for the Jets, the quarterback for the Jets, only 14-23, 186 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. However, that was not enough to defeat the Oakland Raiders. Oh, I'm sorry, the Las Vegas Raiders. Sorry, Oakland. I know that you lost that team. It is the Las Vegas Raiders now. I stand corrected. And then we saw the New York Giants football team defeat the Seahawks. Wow. Yes, you see my eyes like this because the Seahawks actually were poised to try to make a run for first place in the NFC division. However, lately they've been losing games. Russell Wilson has not looked like Russell Wilson, and I'm going to give him a little leeway. That offensive line can't stop anything. I mean, if the offensive line was medicine and your defense was a code, well, we'll all be some sick motherfuckers right now because that offensive line can't protect nothing. As we saw Russell Wilson, he tried his damnedest, 27-43 on the day, 263 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. The offensive line was horrible. Allowed 5 sacks. I'm pretty sure right now Russell Wilson, when he went to sleep last night, he woke up in the middle of the night seeing the New York Giants. That's how much they were in his face. And that defense, though, let me get started on that questionable defense. Even though they had a pretty good showing yesterday, you still allowed a backup quarterback to come in and put 17 on your tater. Colt McCoy came in 13-22, 105 yards for the day, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Seattle, get it together. Because if you don't, even if you make the playoffs, you ain't making no noise. You guys better find a way. Maybe move a guard to left tackle, move a left tackle to center. I don't know, whatever you have to do, but you have to get Russell Wilson some protection. One of the greater quarterbacks of the day. And the highlight of that game was that stiff arm that Metcalf gave out. Yeesh. He threw my mans into the turf. It was time to go night, good buddy. Shout out to Ha Davis. But, man, that stiff arm was vicious. It had some ill intent on that, and I'm pretty sure that man ain't going to try to tackle nobody else. Let's move on. We saw the Los Angeles Rams defeat the Cardinals. Right now, the Cardinals are going backwards. They were having a stellar showing with the hot shot rookie quarterback Kyler Murray. He didn't have a bad game yesterday. He was 21 of 39 yards, 173 yards on the day, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. However, Jared Goff, not to be outdone, he was 37 of 47, 350 yards on the day, 1 touchdown, including 1 rushing touchdown. And that was a high scoring second half. I mean, they were going at it. I mean, the Rams scored 24 points in the second half. The Cardinals scored 21 second half points. And the Rams actually scored 21 points in the fourth. So, excuse me, the Rams put up some great numbers yesterday. And both teams were playing their heart outs as the final score was 38-28 with the Los Angeles Rams winning. And then surprise game of the day, we saw the New England Patriots bend the Los Angeles Chargers over their knee and whoop that ass as they held them to donut hole. Final score being 45-0. And don't look up now, but the Patriots are now at 500. They are 6-6 on the year. I believe if they can at least end the year with a winning record, that will give some type of justification to Cam Newton, especially he's been receiving a lot of slack from a lot of New England fans. Oh, how they miss Tom Brady. And yes, I think we all miss Tom Brady in New England. However, new day, new team, new leader. Cam Newton is not a bad guy to lead your team, but he ain't no Tom Brady. If we look at his numbers yesterday, Cam Newton was 12 of 19 for 65 yards. However, and he had one touchdown, but he did have 48 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns with his legs, and we know that's what Cam could do. He's Superman. However, Cam has been playing like he's been having some kryptonite in his milkshake. 65 yards in the air ain't going to cut it, Cam. Now, granted, Cam Newton does not have the greatest receiving core, which is one of the things that chased Tom Brady out of New England. They didn't want to get him any help. And unfortunately, one of Cam's best receivers is a person that played quarterback in college. How can you have somebody play quarterback in college come to the NFL and be your best receiver? Yeah, you're going to see nights where he only has 65 yards in the air, so Cam Newton had to do what he had to do. Start using his legs, 2 rushing touchdowns on the day. And Justin Herbert, just 2 interceptions, no touchdown, sacked 3 times. That Patriots defense finally showed up and looked like the Patriots defense of old, because as we know, the Patriots was built on running and defense, and Tom Brady was simply a luxury. Cam Newton hopefully can get a winning season this year, and that should solidify him as the starter going forward in New England. And hey, you never know. Quiet as kept. Patriots are on the come up. Could be looking at a silent playoff push. Only time will tell. As again, the final score, Patriots 45, Los Angeles Chargers 0. And then we saw the Green Bay Packers defeat the Eagles. That boy Aaron Rodgers continues to do it. I think that was our primetime game. He continues to be a beast. Final score, 30-16. Aaron Rodgers, what more can you say? 25 of 34, 295 yards on the day, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And his favorite target, Devontae Adams, 10 receptions on the day, 121 yards, 2 touchdowns. And I'm sorry, that was not the primetime game, because the primetime game was the Chiefs versus the Broncos. But I want to continue to talk about what the Green Bay Packers did yesterday, because we also saw Aaron Jones, who has been making quite a name for himself as the running back for the Green Bay Packers. He had 15 carries on the day, 130 yards, 1 touchdown, including that touchdown that he did have was a 77-yard game-clinching touchdown. Can you give me some? We got Aaron Rodgers. We got Aaron Jones. We got the battle of the double A's. And when they're working together, Green Bay Packers are looking like the best team in the NFC. You heard me say that plenty times before. I clearly see Green Bay versus the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl, and I got the Chiefs winning with Pat Mahomes getting his second consecutive MVP, Super Bowl MVP award. Then we saw Carson Wentz, horrible game, 6 of 15 for 79 yards. And walk it to him Wentz, as Shannon would like to call him. But I like to call him give it to him Wentz, because the boy has the most interceptions thrown this year in the NFL, was finally replaced, and he was benched. And I feel bad for him, because I know that's going to hurt his confidence. But when you playing like shit, you got to get off my, you got to get out the game, Bucko. You got to get off my team. You got to go sit down and think about yourself, because I'm not going to continue to win and die with a quarterback that clearly is not all there. Because as I mentioned before, Carson Wentz has thrown the most interceptions this year. I believe he's like 23 or something like that, which is horrible. And I know a lot of teams have been hurt by this COVID, but that's still no excuse, especially when you look at the Eagles' record and they are 3-8-1. I mean, it's just not looking too good for the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, final score 30-16. Green Bay Packers continue to rock and roll 9-3, and they are looking like the team to beat in the NFC. And last but not least, we saw the primetime game that saw the Chiefs versus the Broncos, and this was a defensive game. I think both defenses played well. They only held Pat Mahomes to one touchdown, but of course, you know, he get his touchdowns at the right time, getting that ball to his second best receiver, which is Travis Kelce. I still think Tyreek Hill and Pat Mahomes is just an unstoppable tandem. But if you look at a tight end like Travis Kelce, who can box you out like a basketball player, and very athletic, pays very close attention to detail, and is just a stud of a tight end. He had 8 receptions, 136 yards on the day, 1 touchdown. Pat Mahomes, 25 of 40, 318 yards in the air, only 1 touchdown. But that defense forced Drew Lock into 2 interceptions. Upcoming games, as I mentioned, we have Washington versus Pittsburgh tonight. Pittsburgh seeing if they can keep that undefeated record intact. We have the Bills versus the 49ers. Bills trying to stay in third place in the AFC. And then we have the Cowboys versus the Ravens, with the Cowboys hopefully trying to make one last final push to be tops in the NFC East. If we look at the current standings, we have the Chiefs at number 1 at 11-1. Pittsburgh right now, they're at 11-0, but we don't know how the outcome is going to turn out tonight. Tonight versus the Washington football team. And then we have the Buffalo Bills, third place at 8-3. Titans, fourth place at 8-4. The Browns, who I mentioned, at 9-3. However, they have the unluckiness of being in the same conference as the Pittsburgh Steelers. And as I mentioned, right now, they are the only undefeated team in the National Football Team. And then we have the Colts and the Dolphins tied at 8-4. So right now, it's a very, very, very close race in the AFC. And these teams right now, it's time to, in the words of Woody Harrelson and what's that movie with the zombies? It's time to nut up or shut up. That's real. Because right now, every game matters. And if you want to make it to the playoffs, you better be bringing your A game every night. And then if we look into the NFC, we have the Saints at 10-2, sitting atop first place. We have the Packers at number 2 at 9-3. We have the Rams at 8-4, sitting in that third slot. We have the Giants at 5-7. As you know how I feel about the NFC East. They shouldn't even be allowed to be in the playoffs. However, by default, because the Giants are leading the division at 5-7, they right now are in that 4th spot. You have the Seahawks, who quickly need to get it together before they find themselves out of the playoff picture at 8-4. And we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who also need to get their act together, who also just had a bye week at 7-5. So they're in that 6th place. So right now we have a close race in the NFC as well, but pretty much 1 through 3. I can say, I would just say 1 and 2. We know the Saints and the Packers are going to be there. I think it's going to be a fight to the end with the Seahawks and Rams to see who's going to take that NFC West division. Right now, they're both tied at 8-4, and it's going to come down to whoever owns that tiebreaker. And Tampa Bay, unless you see, I think the next team is Minnesota. They're at 6-6 right now. So as long as Tampa Bay can win, I would say at least, because they're at 12 games now, so we have 4 games left. So if they can win at least 3 out of those 4 games, I believe Tampa Bay will hold on to that 6th spot in the wild card and clinch a playoff berth this year. But as mentioned before, Packers, Chiefs, best teams of their respective conferences. Don't be surprised if those are the two teams we see in the Super Bowl. And we're going to keep this show going. We're going to move right into boxing because Saturday night we saw a great fight between Errol Spence making his return to the ring since his horrific car accident that he had in 2019 that not only almost ended his career, but also almost claimed his life. So to see Errol Spence back, as you know, he is the IBF and WBC welterweight champion of the world. He went against that boy Danny Garcia, Philly born and Philly raised. Danny Garcia, and let me just tell you guys, we're not even going to prolong and drag this out. Danny Garcia got whipped this Saturday. I mean, if you look at Errol Spence, it wasn't even close of him he won by unanimous decision. It went the full 12 rounds. But man, Errol Spence, precise, calculated. Even at times when I thought he was being lazy, he was giving out some vicious body shots to Danny Garcia. I actually got to rewatch the fight on YouTube. And just the shots that he was hitting Danny Garcia with. We saw Danny Garcia looking like Rocky Balboa at the end of the fight. I mean, his eye was lumped up, cheek was lumped up. He definitely looked like he lost the fight. Errol Spence, now at 27-0, still at 21 knockouts, was able to defend his titles. And you know who the fans are screaming for next? They want to see Terrence. They want to see Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford, who's the current WBO welterweight champion of the world. I think right now probably ranked a little bit higher than Errol Spence. He's at 38 wins. He's 38-0. I believe 27 or 28 by knockout. So that's the next mega fight that people are hoping that they get to see. Hopefully they don't wait until they're all old like Mayweather and Pacquiao did. I would love to see these two fighters fight each other in their prime. That's going to be a great fight. It's hard to predict who would win that fight because they both are some hard-hitting champions. However, Errol Spence, he downplayed it. I believe Terrence Crawford showed up to that fight between him and Danny Garcia. And Errol Spence kind of just, yeah, he's here. So what? You know, so he's not really, you know, like he said, you came here looking for me. I didn't come looking for you. I'm not worried about a Terrence Crawford. Now, you might want to watch your mouth, Errol. You know, now I love you as a champion. You're one of my favorite boxers out today. But you don't ever want to keep poking at a bear because sometimes that bear will swipe back at you. And you do have a great champion in Terrence Crawford. He is no slouch. So it'll be interesting to see if those two respective promotions, those two representatives for each fighters can come together and get a deal done so that they can give the people what they want. And two big announcements in boxing. We saw today Evander Holyfield is stating that the fight between him and Tyson is going to happen. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. You guys are like, man, we just saw Mike Tyson go against Roy Jones Jr. We saw these two old guys fight. I would not waste money on watching old guys fight again. Stop it. Because if you guys look and pay attention to what was really going on during that fight, you would know that somewhere behind the scenes, Mike Tyson and Roy Jones made a deal. And the deal had to consist of Mike Tyson saying, Roy, I'm not going to hurt you. I'll give you a couple body shots. They're going to sting. And they're going to hurt. But I ain't going to put you down. As you can see, Mike Tyson did not give that man any face shots. He allowed Roy Jones Jr. to just get a glimpse of the power he possesses. However, he didn't go for the kill shot. Now, if you telling me Mike Tyson gonna go against Holyfield with the bad blood those guys have, and those are two hard-hitting men, nothing against Roy Jones, but there's a little bit of tension between Mike Tyson and Holyfield. Now, I know Mike Tyson's at peace right now, and I don't see him biting off any ears. But I also don't see Mike Tyson holding anything back against Holyfield. He might want to knock his ass out. Ooh, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little interested in watching that fight. We'll see what goes on in the upcoming months, as Evander Holyfield is saying, 2021 is the projected year that they're looking to get this super fight started. And if you guys follow Floyd Money Mayweather on Instagram, he has announced a exhibition super fight between the older brother of Jake Paul. And if you guys don't remember who Jake Paul is, he is the one that knocked the bejesus out of Nate Robinson. He is going to be fighting Logan Paul in an upcoming bout. I want to say they said about February 21st, I believe, that this fight will take place. But Mayweather is going to be fighting Logan Paul, the YouTube sensation, February 21st or 22nd in 2021. Do you want to know what Robs2Cents on this is? I'm going to tell you. Shame on you, Mayweather. Shame on you. Why you going to take that easy money? School is about to be in session because he about to whoop that boy ass. Now, I don't care what y'all feel about Mayweather, but you cannot deny that is probably one of the most genius people we've seen to ever step into a boxing ring. That man got educated hands. He cannot be hit. You look at him train now, he's still faster than ever. And Gervonta Tank Davis, you ain't shit. Because you talking about, so, well, you know what? If he going to fight Logan Paul, then let me beat up on the younger brother for Nate on the undercard. You ain't shit, Tank. You know you would kill Jake Paul. Don't do that to him, Tank. But I ain't going to lie to y'all. I know people used to order Mayweather fights and say they were boring. People used to order Mayweather fights and say all he does is run. He ain't running from no Logan Paul. Oh, he coming hard and he coming fast. Pause that. And he gonna be looking to knock that boy, what we call, the fuck out. Oh, I can't wait to see that, and I'll be lying to you if I told you I wasn't gonna order that fight. We shall see. February 21st, I believe. Don't worry, on the next Robs2Cents, I'll confirm that date for you. But Mayweather, Floyd, Easy Money Mayweather, that's my new nickname for you, boy, is going to be going against Logan Paul. Now, Floyd, at the same token, we know how great you are in the boxing ring, but please stop taking these easy fights because sooner or later you're going to come across somebody and they're going to knock you the fuck out. And you don't want to get if Logan Paul, by the grace of God, was somehow able to win that fight. Now, I know we can't tarnish what you've already done in the world of boxing, but it'll be tarnished just a little bit. Because now we will see why you avoided some of the bigger names in boxing. But I'm not going to say that because Mayweather fought world champions. He fought Canelo Alvarez. He fought Victor Ortiz. He fought Oscar De La Hoya. He fought Diego Corrales. He fought Ricky Hatton. He fought what's my man's name? Manny Pacquiao. He fought Miguel Cotto. So he fought Sugar Shane. He's fought some world champions and defeated them. I mean, with the Pacquiao thing, of course, we know he fought Pacquiao when they were both out of their primes. However, Pacquiao is still continuing to fight. So I don't know how much we can keep. I don't know how long we keep saying that statement because it ain't like Pacquiao quit after the Mayweather fight. I mean, if Pacquiao was gonna quit after any fight, it would have been after Juan Manuel Marquez knocked him on his ass and had him sleep. He was sleeping. You can't say sleep. He was sleeping. But that's another conversation for another day. Be on the lookout for that. I'm pretty sure they're going to be making some announcements. I'm pretty sure they're going to be having some face-offs soon. Maybe a YouTube docuseries on them training for the upcoming fight. But Floyd Easy Money Mayweather versus YouTube sensation Logan Paul. I believe February 21st. Be on the lookout for that. And if we go into the NBA, not much to talk about in the NBA. I mean, things are pretty steady, much quiet right now. I mean, everybody has their eyes on James Harden to see where he's going to go. Because as we heard, Russell Westbrook was traded for John Wall as they just pretty much did a switcheroo. So now Russell Westbrook, I'm sorry, I keep saying Wilson. Russell Westbrook is now with the Washington Wizards, and John Wall is now with the Houston Rockets. Now, I do like Westbrook with Washington because Bradley Beal is not James Harden. Nothing against James Harden, but James Harden is a player whose game is built off dribble, 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 step back, shoot, or get to the rim. Either I'm going to hit the layup or I'm going to get the foul. But he is a player who needs the ball in his hands. Bradley Beal don't need the ball in his hands to be successful. And now it's going to be times where he wants the ball because he can get his own shot. But I believe we're going to see a resurgence with Washington, especially they were able to keep Bertans. So Russell has some shooters over there, and Bradley Beal can be a spot-up shooter. I think Russell Westbrook is going to have a great season. I heard today Westbrook was the first person to get to the facilities with the Washington Wizards as training camp is starting now. They say he was the first one in the gym, so that just shows you the dedication that this man has to remove the tarnishment from his name. Because people are saying he's a horrible teammate. People are saying that you can't win with Russell Westbrook. And that ain't the case. I mean, Russell Westbrook is not going to cheat you when he plays basketball. He's going to give you 120%, and he's going to put it all out there on the line, and he's going to play until the last horn goes off, and you're going to get from start to finish a player that wants to win, and he's going to do everything he can to win. Now, Russell Westbrook is going to have to swallow that pill sometime and realize that you cannot take your players out of the game. Meaning, I know you want to be triple-double. I know you want to score the most points. But if your teammates got it going, get them the ball and get the hell out their way, Russell. And I think that's his only problem is that he tries to dictate the flow of the game too much instead of letting the game flow dictate itself. However, like I said, you will not get cheated with Russell Westbrook, and it will be a great addition for Washington, considering the fact that, unfortunately, John Wall stays hurt. Russell Westbrook is not one player to. I mean, we seen him with that. I think he tore his hamstring or something like that, or ACL, and but you don't really see him out with too many significant injuries. He's one that can make it through a whole season. And I like John Wall with Houston as well. However, you just pretty much have the same player as a Russell Westbrook. I mean, it's not enough balls to go around. Pause that as well. It's not enough balls to go around. Pause. And James Harden or John Wall, which 9 times out of 10 is going to be John Wall, you're going to have to be willing to try to play off the ball. I think John Wall can play a little bit better off the ball than Russell Westbrook. However, the question is, one, is John Wall going to be able to stay healthy throughout the year, considering the fact that he's coming off an injury that pretty much had him sidelined for a year and a half, 2 years. And then two, is James Harden still going to be there? Now, John Wall has stated on social media and through various interviews that he believes he is going to be playing with James Harden when it's all said and done and when the start of the NBA happens on December 22nd. But only time will tell, because as we know, Brooklyn still has their eye on him. However, they don't have pretty much any pieces to really intrigue the Houston Rockets to trade James Harden. And on top of that, Golden State has their eye on James Harden, especially considering the fact that we know that Klay has torn his ACL and that he's going to be out for the year, for the season. So, interesting things going on. We did see Tristan Thompson. I believe he's now with the Boston Celtics, and I think that can help the Celtics as far as energy level goes. However, it's not really oh, wow, you guys are on your way. Couple quick notes. NBA is opposing a new resting policy, which is pretty much going to prohibit teams from resting superstars during marquee matchups on national TV. So that means the NBA is trying to force these coaches to let the star players play. when you have a Thursday night game, a Saturday night primetime game, or a Sunday afternoon game, and you see the Lakers versus the Clippers, you expect to see Kawhi Leonard versus LeBron James, or GM Bron, as I like to call him. Don't steal my quote, y'all. Just let me have it. We expect to see GM Bron versus Kawhi. We expect to see Paul George versus Anthony Davis. These teams have, and I blame Greg Popovich for this, but he went unnoticed because Tim Duncan was a little old. But, we've seen coaches rest star players on primetime matchups, and that's not what we want. I don't want to see you resting a John Wall or James Harden on a Christmas Day game. Don't be resting Steph Curry on a Wednesday night game on ESPN. Don't do that to us. We tune in, and when we could, we would show up to the stadiums to watch our favorite players play. And unfortunately, our favorite players ain't the seventh man off the bench. So I do love this new resting policy that the NBA is going to be putting in place. Violation will result in a $100,000 fine to that respective team. However, I know they will be loosening up. Like, as far as back-to-backs, I can understand that. But you choose the game that's not national, and let the star players play on the national game. That is what we paid to see. And also, COVID protocols right now, that they still have the protocols going on without the vaccine. COVID protocols are going to prevent NBA players from going to like any public places. So like clubs, bars, gyms, anywhere where 15 or more people are at. If NBA players are caught, they can be subject to fine, suspension, and even longer game suspensions. What we're just trying to do is keep everyone safe. Before I continue with this, I just want to commend every sports organization, whether that be baseball, wrestling, football, basketball. All you guys, I want to commend all you guys for dealing with this COVID the best way you can and continuing to give us great, great content and giving me great content to speak about, because that brings me to my last topic of the day. Oh boy, you know I love me some wrestling, some good old wrestling. And in the WWE, it's a little quiet right now. As I mentioned on my last podcast, WWE's next pay-per-view is TLC, Tables, Ladders, and Chairs. Oh my. And a championship match has been announced right now for TLC, which we will see Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens. Roman Reigns, again, if you guys have not been able to watch wrestling, let me tell you, you will enjoy this heel character that he has alongside with Paul Heyman and alongside with his cousin Jay Uso, who is one half of the Usos, with Jimmy Uso right now being on injury leave. They had a great segment this past Friday on SmackDown where Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens were out talking to each other, and they had Charlie Caruso in the ring. I think I'm saying her name right. And she's pretty much like the announcer, the interview person for WWE. And Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens were talking about fighting each other. And then Kevin Owens was like, we don't have to wait until TLC. We could do this right now. And Roman Reigns just had the great one line of, hey, grow up, man. Don't you see there's a lady in the ring? Now, this came after he pretty much chewed Charlie Caruso a new asshole for asking him how he can manipulate his cousin Jay Uso into doing all these horrible things. And we saw Jay Uso versus Kevin Owens again that night. And actually, no, it was a tag team match. I want to say it was Roman Reigns and Jay Uso versus Kevin Owens, and I can't think of the other person right now. I do apologize for that. However, Roman Reigns came out late. I want to say Daniel Bryan maybe, but Roman Reigns it was Daniel Bryan. Roman Reigns came out late, and he doesn't show up to the ring on time. And not only did he beat the dog shit out of Kevin Owens with chair shots, he then turned his attention towards his own cousin because he was still mad that his cousin lost at Survivor Series. He was mad he couldn't lead Team SmackDown to victory in the Survivor Series elimination match of Team Raw versus Team SmackDown. And he was mad that pretty much nobody was respecting him in the WWE, or at least that's how Roman Reigns felt. And he told his cousin he would have to pay for his consequences, and paid he did, as Roman Reigns turned his attention to Jey Uso and then started to beat the hell out of him with a steel chest. So that's an interesting dynamic, because he's going to be expecting Jey Uso to stand next to his side and continue to call him the head of the table, continue to call him the tribal chief. So that is a feud I'm going to be paying attention to. Also on SmackDown, we have on Monday Night Raw, we have The Fiend versus Randy Orton. They're rekindling that feud, and they actually had a little interesting concept. So Alexa Bliss, as you guys may or may not know, has aligned herself with the Fiend, and they kind of taken on this Joker Harley Quinn perspective. And Alexa Bliss was out there hosting her weekly television show, which is called A Moment of Bliss, and she had, of course, Randy Orton as her guest. Randy Orton and her kind of got into a pissing contest to see who dick was bigger, even though Alexa ain't got one. And he was pretty much saying that when he went against Bray Wyatt the first time, he was able to figure out his weakness, which was his past, Sister Abigail, which was the house that he was, the barn or farm that he was raised on, and he burned it down. And he feels like that's what gave him the edge over Bray Wyatt the first time. Now he's saying Alexa Bliss is his weakness, and if he's not careful, he's gonna exploit that weakness. So we then see the lights go out, lights come back on, the Fiend is standing in the ring. However, Randy Orton is holding Alexa Bliss. Now, this is the first time we've seen the human side of the Fiend, as he pretty much reached his hands out to Randy to say, "Give me back my girl," looking like King Kong. "Give me back my girl." And Randy Orton handed her off and slid out of the ring and kept looking in the ring and said, "I got you. I found your weakness." So it's going to be interesting to see that little dynamic between the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton, and Alexa Bliss. Keep watching. And then we know for sure that Drew McIntyre will be going against AJ Styles for the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, as AJ Styles was the winner of the triple threat match between him, Keith Lee, and Matt Riddle. The winner of that triple threat match now became the number one contender, which was AJ Styles. So him and Drew McIntyre, I believe, will be fighting at TLC as well. I would actually love to see AJ Styles back with the title. He is just awesome wrestler. Hence the reason they call him the phenomenal AJ Styles. But I have to give all attention right now to AEW as we look forward to end this segment. AEW, as you know, this past Wednesday just had their Winter is Coming edition of Dynamite, which was the biggest Dynamite of the year. I actually looked up and said that was probably one of the highest rating Dynamites of the year as well, as far as TV ratings go. We started the night off. We had a battle royal to determine the competitors for the Dynamite Diamond Ring, currently being held by MJF of the Inner Circle, which is this ring that pretty much, it stands in place like a King of the Ring. If you remember old school wrestling, it stands in place of like a tournament trophy winner. So if you win this Dynamite Diamond Ring, you're pretty much setting yourself up for future title shots and And MJF was in this battle royal. So how the battle royal worked is pretty much I think it's either 15 to 20 competitors in the ring. Yeah, they all start off at the ring at the same time. So it's not like a Royal Rumble where one person comes to the ring every 90 seconds. A battle royal, everybody starts in the ring at the same time. It's an over-the-top rope elimination, so going through the ropes or under the ropes doesn't count. And how they did it was the last two competitors left in the battle royal will face each other next week on Dynamite in a one-on-one singles match to determine who is going to be the winner of that Dynamite Diamond Ring. So you saw people like Matt Hardy, Orange Cassidy, Wardlow, MJF, Sammy Guevara of the Inner Circle. We saw Adam Hangman Page. We saw John Silver and other AEW superstars in this battle royal. MJF and Orange Cassidy pretty much won. It came down to pretty much all three members of the Inner Circle, Jungle Boy and Orange Cassidy. We saw MJF kind of push Sammy Guevara Well, Jungle Boy over the top ropes took Sammy Guevara with him, and we know right now they are odds and ends. Sammy doesn't trust MJF in the inner circle, and he think he's secretly trying to plot against Chris Jericho, who is the leader of the inner circle. We'll get more to that in a second. And then we saw Wardlow get eliminated by Orange Cassidy. So that left MJF and Orange Cassidy to face off next Dynamite to determine who's the winner of the Dynamite Diamond Ring. And then that night we also saw Chris Jericho defeat Frankie Kazarian. And during that match, however, for some reason MJF came out with the white towel and he was going to throw the towel in, which would have cost Chris Jericho the match. However, Sammy Guevara came down and snatched the towel out of his hand. So while they were bickering outside the ring, that distracted Frankie Kazarian and allowed Chris Jericho to hit that beautiful Judas effect, which is a spinning back elbow, get the 1, 2, 3. And then we saw Chris Jericho threaten to break up the inner circle if they could not get their act together. We also saw Dr. Britt Baker defeat Layla Hirsch. We saw Darby Allin and Cody Rhodes defeat Team Taz, which consisted of Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Will Hobbs. And after that match, Team Taz decided that they were a little salty about the loss that they just took, and they proceeded to beat down Cody Rhodes, to beat down Darby Allin. They even beat up Arn Anderson. They beat up Cody Rhodes and anybody from Team Nightmare that decided to come out. And then, ladies and gentlemen, now I know this might not excite some of you because I know this man is a little old, but damn it, I can't help it. We saw the debut of Sting. Now, anybody who ever watched wrestling and ever watched WCW knows about Sting, knows about the man with the painted face that looks like the Crow, know about the legendary fights he had with the NWO, the legendary battles against Ric Flair, the legendary battles in WCW. We saw Sting make his debut in AEW, and a lot of people thought Sting was done. He had injured himself at WWE. I believe Seth Rollins gave him a Bronco bomb, which is pretty much a power bomb to the turnbuckle. Sting hit that the wrong way, had a little stinger in his neck, no pun intended, and he had pretty much called it quits for wrestling. But we saw Sting debut in AEW, and man, I just wish there were fans. I mean, there was, I think, 1,000 people in attendance, but and if that would have been a full stadium, I know the roof would have blown off that place to see the legendary icon known as Sting. So Sting made his debut in AEW, and he's supposed to be making an announcement this Wednesday on his AEW status. According to what I read, Sting has signed a full-term contract, so I wonder if we will see the Stinger return in the ring. And last but not least, we saw Kenny Omega, a.k.a. The Cleaner, defeat Jon Moxley and become the new AEW World Champion. Congratulations, Brother Omega. You deserve it. He's been putting on the wrestling clinic since New Japan. Kenny Omega is definitely somebody who deserves to have the championship. And it's going to give a shot of adrenaline to AEW, as Jon Moxley pretty much been running things for a while now. I want to say almost a year he's been champion. So to see a new champion, and especially a champion like Kenny Omega, is exciting. But that's not even the most exciting news. It looks like AEW is going to be partnering up with Impact Wrestling. I don't know if they're still called TNA, which stood for Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, but I know they call themselves Impact Wrestling today. And we had Don Callis, who is an executive vice president for Impact Wrestling, who was there on the commentary during the match between Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley. And yes, Kenny Omega did win clean. There were no out of the ring shenanigans going on. There was no backstage politics going on. It was just Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley, and Kenny won. However, when he won, him and Don Callis began to make their way through the locker room. People were looking surprised, like, wait, what is going on? Don Callis doesn't even work for AEW. He works for Impact Wrestling. What are you guys doing together? And I loved how they brushed past all the questions. They got to their vehicles. However, Don Callis turned around and announced that him and Kenny Omega does have a partnership, and Kenny Omega will be making his announcement, but not on AEW Wednesday Night Dynamite. No, it will be on Impact's Wrestling Impact Zone that comes on Tuesday on Destination TV. So to see these companies partnering up, I say the WWE is a little in trouble, because unless they're willing to uh, allow the wrestlers to really shine and develop some great storylines, you're going to hear more segments like this where I'm more interested in what's going on in AEW as opposed to WWE. Right now, Roman Reigns and The Fiend are the saving grace for the WWE. So hopefully they don't dwindle those stories down. Wrestling right now is putting out some great products. I am interested to see what's going to happen in TLC, and I'm going to be watching Monday Night Raw tonight, which we'll be talking about on the next podcast. And we're going to break down what's going on, and hopefully they give me some things to talk about, because I love the WWE. I grew up on the WWE, so and still growing up on the WWE. And when I have kids, they'll be growing up on the WWE too. I mean, one of my fondest memories is going to my first Monday Night Raw, and this happened as an adult. And I was excited like a kid, and you'll see me in my NWO shirt next week on Robs2Cents. And this has been the end of my show. I appreciate you guys for sticking around. Last but not least, I wanted to save this shout out for the last comment. Me and my wife just celebrating 2 years together. Today is my anniversary, December 7th. Remember those days. Remember that date, guys. So I just want to tell her publicly, I love you. I always will love you. And this has been one hell of a roller coaster ride, but I would not have it any other way. Who I'm with is exactly who I'm supposed to be with. Love you, baby. This to many more. Happy anniversary. And I love you guys out here. I thank you for sticking around with me for my show. This has been an awesome experience. I think this is probably one of my better shows. Apologies to Russell Westbrook. I kept calling you Russell Wilson. But hey, what's better than a podcast than getting live reaction and having that real talk? We don't sketch things around here. We don't edit. We keep it going. And I hope you all have a great evening. Hope you guys are preparing yourselves for a happy holiday and a happy New Year's. You know, at the end of the year, we're going to go to the top of the roof and scream out Jumanji and hope that this 2020 year is over with. And we all going to have a great 2021. I'm speaking into everybody's future. Hope you all have a great one. Remember, like the video, share the video, subscribe. This has been Rob Scott with Robs2Cents. You know the slogan. We gone.